Good evening. The views and opinions of guests on this program, Adventures into the Strange, are not necessarily the views and opinions of the host, staff, crew, or parent company, Go Shield Entertainment Group, LLC. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy the program.
Well, folks, we're back. We warned you we would be tonight. Now I need to explain something because I've got a boatload of emails and PMs asking, why do I say Adventures into the Strange on a disclaimer? Well, the reason I say that is that on my license with FCC, that is the program that's licensed. We call it World Reality with Richard G. Medlock because that's what we're talking about. And the other nights that Richard's not with us, I either spin music or I have a guest on that we talk about music or we talk about weird stuff. But the thing is, right now, really and truly, the only reason that we have to have a license is for the land-based radio stations that are carrying us. There's now 41 of them. So, and we used to have 178 altogether, and they went bye-bye because good old FCC stuck their finger in the plum pudding and stirred it around. Well, we found a way around it. But anyway, that's beside the point. My name's Tucklona Shoba, and my good friend Richard G. Medlock is getting ready to educate you. So take it away, Richard.
Thank you, Tucklow. Good afternoon. Welcome to World Reality. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've noticed since yesterday, a lot of hate speech. And the hate speech is not coming from the whites. It's actually not even coming from most Democrats, but it's coming from Black leadership. I'm going to read some of these quotes to you and try to make some sense out of it. The head of the new Black Panther organization, you don't want to go listen to it. It is so vile and ugly, and the language is just atrocious. But we've cleaned it up, and we're going to read you what he said. And then we're going to read Martin Luther King, and then I'm going to read something that was sent to me by a college professor friend of mine who's been on the show a couple of times. But they're laying their stakes down, and they're putting down the red line. I don't know where they learned that from, because Obama, he puts one down and Obama doesn't know what it means, I think. But these other people do. It's really ugly out there right now, and the speech and the hate that's taking place. We're going to try to make what sense we can out of that and put it into perspective. I hate for it to be that way. But first, let's go to the economy again. We talked to you yesterday about the economy. The GDP report was out. It was 0 plus 2% growth. The number, when you break it down, the economy only grew just under $7 billion in the first quarter. That's not a lot of growth. The government spends more than that every day. So
yes, they do.
So when you put it into perspective, it didn't grow a lot. One of the keys, Tyler Durden came out with an article today talking about increase in inventory buildup. Well, there was almost $122 billion spent on inventory buildup. And if that had not taken place, the GDP would have been a negative 3%. Not 0.3, a negative 3%. And inventories grow, ladies and gentlemen, because nobody's buying. So now we have an inventory overload, you might say, because nobody's buying, and that's the only thing that kept the GDP on a positive side. Other news that came out today was Well, consumer spending went up, but not enough to make a difference. And on yesterday's program, I said, look, the second quarter, which we now got 1 month under the belt for the second quarter, is still not looking good. It's still on a downtrend. And because of that and other things, the stock market was down. It closed down 195 points. However, about a half an hour before the close, it was down 250. Now, oil went up. Right now, in the aftermarket, it's trading at 59.70. The oil is up 24% in the month of April. 24%. Now, I figured up around here, this area, gas at the pump has gone up 18% in this month. Now, I'm looking to see what gas prices at the pump are tomorrow. Because it hasn't really jumped or moved much in the last week, but we've had a pretty good jump in the price on the barrel. And finally, someone came out and echoed what we have been saying on the business programs this morning, saying people did not spend their savings from the pump knowing this was a short-term situation. And one of the reasons that we're seeing gas prices go up, and yeah, there's problems in the Middle East, and Iran took a ship, and all this stuff. But OPEC probably feel like that they have reached their goal of shutting down enough oil wells in the United States that it's not going to affect them. A lot of oil wells have been shut down. Over 25,000 people have lost their jobs in the last few months by oil wells and oil industry providers having to shut down and cut back. So I think OPEC has sat there and said, okay, we've heard them enough. Now, let's say oil prices go back up to 80, 90, maybe $100 a barrel. Are they going to reopen these wells? It costs a lot of money to reopen a well. And they might have been better off if I'd have played it this way. I'd have kept the wells open and took a short-term hit versus the bigger hit to reopen that well and get that pipeline going again. So that's just me as a business owner looking at this thing and what I would have done. But nobody called me and asked me from the oil industry what I thought about the strategy and what's going on, which is fine. Since I've never worked in the oil industry directly, I worked in it. I was a consultant to an oil company in the 70s and made them a lot of money and made other people a lot of money during that period. But market NASDAQ was down 83 today, 1.65%. And it was ugly today. Now, why was it down today? In the past, in the last few years, the day after, the day of and the day after the Fed speaks and puts out their minutes, and they're saying, oh, we're not going to raise interest rates, the market normally goes up quite a bit. But just the opposite this time. In their minutes that we reported last night, they said, I mean, they took out any speculation of when rates would be going up. They're sitting there looking at just an ugly economy. They don't say it that way. So normally the market would just, hey, wait, look at this. But guess what now, ladies and gentlemen? People are starting to look at the fundamentals of the market, the fundamentals of corporations, the fundamentals of the economy, and they're veering away from just looking at what is the Federal Reserve going to do for the stock market. Now, if that look continues toward the fundamentals, the basic fundamentals, of the corporation and the economy and the earnings and so forth, then we're going to see could see a major downturn in the market. And if that happens, I'm not sure what else is going to happen. But the market, in my opinion, is way overpriced in the first place, only because of the Fed intervention and pumping all that money in there. So we will see what happens in the next little bit, and go from there. I talked about inventories. There was an article today, and I kept looking and looking and looking. I thought I put it in my foray of articles and information, and I couldn't find it. I even tried to Google it. I think it disappeared. I think they pulled it because this guy wrote an article saying that unemployment, let's see, let me phrase it right. We are over employed now. We are almost, and that's not it. We are almost at full employment. I saw that headline. I said, I got to read this guy's reasoning here. And he twisted numbers, and he took a lot of things for granted, which are lies coming from the government. I'm sorry.
Untruths.
Untruths, misinformation coming out of the government.
Yeah, that's what
Pardon me?
Misinformation. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yeah, misinformation coming out of the government. He took and twisted those numbers to make it look like there's no more room for hiring in this country. A day after I sat here and said there are 93 plus million Americans eligible for a job that can't find a job. That we're down to one of the lowest. Oh, crud. I did it.
What'd you do now, Ricardo? Oh, no. Well, he's still showing he's live, folks. We'll wait to see what happens. Oh, I can twiddle my thumbs with the best of them. Richard, are you there? Well, guys, since we're waiting on him, I don't know what to do. I guess I could talk and you can listen. There you go. Okay, Richard, what's going on?
I forgot to plug the computer in again.
Well,
so I'm going to reboot it. I plugged it in. It's rebooting right now. But let's just continue on Skype. Am I coming in okay?
yeah, you're coming in fine. Skype's on one of my computers, and then you're. Are you going to try to go back on the other one?
I've got to think about that because I have to go back in and reset up the whole thing and actually start a new program.
Richard, I have to step away for a minute. Go ahead and continue your train of thought.
All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I just, again, forgot to plug in my computer again when I switched it from one room to another, and I do apologize. And but anyway, I'm trying to reboot it to go from there, and it is rebooting as we talk. But I was talking about the unemployment. We've got 93 plus million people out of work, and we have we're at the lowest employment percentage of the labor force in the last 35 years. And a guy comes out and says, we are almost at full employment, or almost over fully employed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, he's either been paid a whole lot of money to write that article, or something. I don't know. I guess here, I got to type something in real quick. And I've got to think what I'm thinking about. World reality. I'm reaching here, folks. I'm just in trouble like crazy. All right, we don't want any dead air here.
I am back.
Okay, what's it telling me? I don't know. I agree. Continue. Have a